1 year ago, Brian Niccol took the reins at Starbucks, setting the company on a journey to get back to its roots, improve customer service, and ultimately turn its sales around. I sat down with Niccol here in Seattle to talk about the company's transformative year and what's ahead in year 2. Good morning, Brian. Great to see you. Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, good morning. Good to be here.
So you are 1 year into this role as CEO. What, in your opinion, do you hope is the most tangible difference for a customer who walks into a Starbucks today versus what they saw a year ago?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference people hopefully are already seeing is just the idea of the whole green apron service model. You know, I think about a year ago when I rolled out the idea of back to Starbucks, we said we were going to get back to being a customer service organization that could deliver great experiences in a timely manner. And I think that's exactly what we've accomplished. And you've seen it through very clear, tangible things, right? From the condiment bar to things that are behind the scenes, like our smart queue technology. And then probably most visible, I believe, are our partners, where we've been able to invest in incremental hours, which allows for bigger rosters, more partners to be deployed in the right place at the right time, to ultimately, create that great craft and that great connection.
And the company recently had its best sales week ever. Can you share what your data is showing you about new customer acquisitions as you lean further into hospitality?
Yeah, I mean, what we're really excited about is we're seeing both non-rewards customers come back in a big way, as well as rewards customers. And that is, to me, the sign of we're doing the right things, both in the store and outside of the store, with communication, menu innovation, and just having the brand show up the way we want it to show up again, which is all about this idea of you get exactly your personalized coffee experience. And you almost, when you walk into your Starbucks, you get that feeling like our partners know you, they're excited to see you, and I think that's really translating into these incremental experiences.
And you said in this most recent quarter that you've obviously been a part of turnarounds in the past. This one, by your measure, is ahead of schedule. I'm wondering when that turns into positive same-store sales momentum in the US in particular.
Yeah, look, I think the good news is we know when we start providing the Starbucks experience that we are capable of providing, I think we're going to get really strong performance. And the good news is we've seen a lot of these green shoots kind of in small scale. And I mentioned in the last earnings call, we're ahead of schedule. Primarily what I was talking about is the fact that we are rolling out the green apron service model now everywhere. And so, we're about a month in on that, and I'm delighted to say we're seeing the impact at scale, which is really exciting to see.
Talk to us a bit about menu innovation and striking that balance between adding new buzzy items to the menu like protein coffee, but also remaining a coffee company at the core.
Yeah, look, I think what's really important is we have to execute our core business with excellence, right? So I believe we have the best brewed coffee in the industry with our Clover Vertica machine, as well as the way that we source beans, roast the beans, and then the way in which we actually are able to produce the brewed coffee, where it literally goes from basically bean to cup, all in one, I think it's 25 seconds it takes on the Clover Vertica. Two things with our espresso, and people can get their lattes or their cappuccinos or their cold coffee. And now most recently what people seem to be really excited about is matcha. So, these are core elements of the business that we have to do right. We got to have hot coffee right, we got to have cold coffee right, and clearly we got to have the matcha lattes right. And from there, I think you have when you have strength in the core business, you're able to do some innovation around it. So protein is a great example, right? Protein cold foam will work on all those products that I just talked about, as well as the protein milk. And you'll see us continue to figure out what do customers want to look for, both in the morning occasion, the afternoon occasion, and then we can figure out how we bring it forward so that our partners are capable to execute with excellence every single time. It should never work against being able to execute the proposition of great craft, great personalization, and great coffee drinks.
Where do you see consumer sentiment heading into the holiday season, as we're seeing some reports of people potentially pulling back their spending?
Yeah, look, we're seeing a lot of different signals from the consumer, and I think you're hearing that as other people talk about what's going on. There are a lot of signals where they're hanging there just fine because of the unemployment data that you see and the jobs that people continue to have. And then you see other places where there is some trepidation about potentially what could happen in the future. But all in all, we continue to see the consumer respond positively when the Starbucks experience is on point. And what we continue to see is customers want that morning ritual. They also want that afternoon experience, and they also want that connection with our baristas. And so that's why I'm so excited about what the Green Apron service model provides. It's our way of playing offense in whatever environment we have to operate in.
When you came into this role, you committed to no price hikes in 2025. Are they on the table in 2026?
You know, look, I think the way we think about this is we always want to make sure we're smart about how we have to take price. Ideally, we did not move any price over the last year. We had to remove a lot of discounting out of the business, which was not effective. And so, we're resetting the value proposition for our customers. But I think what I'm most excited about is we're seeing those value scores improve tremendously in the business. And then going forward, we'll figure out, where and when and if we need to take price.
And to counter that, do you need to cut price at all? You talk about the value scores, given there are so many new entrants into the beverage space with so much added competition, McDonald's, Luckin, there are so many others. Are you thinking about price cuts?
When I look at where our pricing is right now, like brewed coffee, I think you're going to see that we are priced very competitively. And, it's something that I keep an eye on, what our price gap is. I do believe we are a premium brand, and I do believe you get a premium experience with the Green Apron service model and what we're doing to our coffee houses to give people that coffee house experience again. So I think we're priced correctly right now, and I like our competitive position. We are the world's biggest coffee company, and we're going to operate from a point of view where, we're going to give people the experiences they want. We're going to set our partners up for success. And when we do that, we know we end up with a great value proposition.
And moving to China, as you're evaluating options for that stake of the business, and you move into year 2 of this role, how big of a focus is China and turning that business around going to be in your second year as CEO?
Yeah, look, I want all of our stores around the world to all be performing. And China has done a nice job of, I think, frankly, getting the business stabilized, getting committed to innovation, being smart about its marketing, all the P's associated with marketing. I think they've gotten really smart with the menu innovation, their pricing architecture, and not surprising, we're seeing really good results from there. So, the thing that I'm really excited about is the opportunity of growth in China. Today we have 8,000 stores. I think in the future we're going to have 20, maybe even 30,000 stores in China. We have a great team there. Obviously, we're working through what is the right partnership so that we can grow and capture that 20, 30,000 store opportunity. But I'm really optimistic about not just our growth story in China, but what can happen around the world.
And this time next year, what will your metric for success be for Starbucks?
Yeah, look, I think this time next year, what I believe we have to keep doing is listening to the customer to ensure that we are in sync with what they need from Starbucks. And, sometimes you're going to have moments where you're up, you're going to have sometimes moments where you're down. But regardless, what I believe we have to stay focused on is how do we best serve the customer every single time they walk through the door and ensure that our partners are set up to provide that great customer experience. I really hope we're moving towards being the world's greatest customer service company, the world's greatest customer-centric company that just understands what do people want out of their morning coffee, their afternoon beverage, and hopefully food to go with it.
And then finally, what's your biggest opportunity in this year to come?
Look, I think our biggest opportunity is rolling out that Green Apron service model consistently. We've had to hire a lot of new partners. We've got bigger teams, and I just want to make sure that we execute with excellence. Obviously, we'll have some menu innovation to complement, I think, the great store experience, but we just have to stay focused on keeping the main thing, and ensure that when people walk into Starbucks, they get the best of Starbucks.
Great. Brian Niccol, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Kate.